I'll pass on to.
I'll slide in. Kia ora, everybody. I'm Kieran Wall. I have been with Active Southland for 6 weeks. The role that I'm filling here is Special Projects Lead, and we'll be looking at some disability work, as well as relationships with councils and a few other bits and pieces. My background is in the disability sector. I previously worked for Paralympics New Zealand, was Inclusive Cities Manager for Tauranga City Council, and I'm also neurodiverse myself, so I'll be talking about that and my work and a few experiences later. I'll pass on to Athena.
My name is Athena Kent and I teach at Tūtaro Primary School, and I have the year 0 to 3s. Oh, and I have a cat. Carla, stop laughing. It's your turn, Carla.
Kia ora, I am Carla Gillies and I am Tumuaki Principal at Tūtaro Primary School, and I'm not surprised Athena bought her a cat. I will pass to Stephanie, who's on my side.
Hi, I'm Steph. Yeah, I'm just a teacher at Lumsden Primary School, so I'll jump on, see what you're going to be talking about. Pass it on to Sally.
Hello, I'm Sally. I teach year 2s and 3s at Rimu Full Primary. I've just moved down to Southland this year, so I recognise Jodie, but I don't recognise any other faces. And really keen to hear this because we have neurodiversity in our family, and the more we learn about it, the more we think that I'm somewhere on there as well myself. So I'm really keen to hear what you guys have got to say.
Who do you want to pass to, Sally?
Yes, sorry, Ange, you're below me.
Hi, I'm Ange. I'm a TA at Otatara School. I've been working with a child for the last 4 years with high health needs, but he's year 6, so he's off to high school next year. So I'm just starting to do some work with a wee boy that we've just had join our school. He's 6 years old and he's got autism. So I'm hoping that this is going to be helping me to support him with the transition to school and for his time with primary. I'll pass on to Mark.
Kia ora, team. Yeah, I work in the Healthy Active Learning team. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped to hear about the learning that's going to happen tonight. We've got some amazing people speaking about a lot of different sort of neurodiversity that's happening all throughout sort of Southland and beyond. So really excited about tonight. So I'll pass on to Hiran.
Kia ora, thanks Mark. I'm Hiran and I like the Active Southland crew and the Healthy Active Learning team. I go from Tiano right across to Waikaia in the Northern Band. Been spending a lot of time in the sunshine. The weather's been great up there the last couple of weeks, so stoked back up there on Thursday, Dawn. And yeah, happy to be here, and I'll chuck over to Dawn, who is one of my teachers in Tiano. Where are you, by the way, Dawn? Like, where are you?
Dawn's having some technical difficulties.
Dawn is having difficulties. Let's check. Go. Have we got Rose? Busted, Rose. Okay, Rose. Not hearing me either. What? Steve. Catch out all the Active Southland crew.
Yeah, kia ora whānau.
There we go.
Steve Gear from Active Southland, just sort of recently with the Healthy Active Learning team, but yeah, I guess in the last year and a half been quite involved in the disability space with my old pal Chris up there. And I think, we've all identified that there's been a lot in the community around physical and intellectual, but the need is hugely in this neurodiverse space as well, and how we cater to young people in whānau, and help them have great experiences. And you guys been key parts of that. So yeah, really keen to listen to all the conversation tonight, and I'll pass to, what have we got over there? I'll pass to you, Stu.
Kia ora. I'm Stu Brown. I'm the noob
at Active Southland in the Healthy Active Learning. Yeah, I'm just glad to tag along and be here. I'm glad we haven't got hundreds of people because the introductions would have taken a long time, and it's quality over quantity too. So we've got a lot of quality people on this one, so that's awesome.
Who are you passing
Cheers.
to?
I can't see who's all here, so let me just see. Somebody pass on my behalf because I can't quite see that stuff.
Who's it been? Anya? Did I say that right?
Yes, you did say that right. I can't quickly bring a picture up. Let me see. Oh, there we go. So, you know, I just saw it on the Facebook, Chris, and I thought, oh, I'll come along and have a wee look. It might apply to some of the kids that I work with. So,
Yeah, I think Lucky Last is it in and on you. Still connecting, perhaps?
I don't think Dawn introduced herself.
Dawn, are you still on? Can you unmute yourself? No. Read your lips. I think that is one. Those that have, that's okay. If you want, you can use the chat function throughout, and we'll if you've got questions or anything, or Dawn, you want to say where you're from, but yeah, we'll just use the chat function as well. We'll sing out if you have any qualms or questions. But I thought we'd just start off with a wee opening karakia. So this is Te Tiru Whakamua, Kokori Whakamai, and that is look back and reflect so you can move forward. So thank you again for joining us online tonight. It is really special to have you all here to listen to our three speakers. We're really lucky to have them share their knowledge with us tonight. And without further ado, I might chuck over to Jodie, who is going. I'm not going to actually chuck over to Jodie. Don't worry, we'll get you, Tim. I am going to share with you a screen, which hopefully will pop up, and it is here a whiteboard. Cool. So start off with just to bounce some ideas off each other and to see where we're all at sort of on this neurodiverse journey. I thought it'd be really interesting just to see what does the term neurodiverse mean to you. So if you pop on to one of those wee stickies, if you just want to put in a wee thought that you might have, a few bullet points, the first thing that sort of springs to mind, anything that you want to Jamboard sort of on here, that'd be really great, just to see what everyone is thinking and what sort of journey they're on. Be awesome. Give you a couple of minutes just to jam that out. That'd be great.
Today, Scott, she's blind.
Add some more stickies if we're running out.
I'll just close the chat, right?
Yeah.
Cool. We'll just finish up on those, and I've just got one more wee slide to introduce you to. I'll give you just a couple of seconds to finish those off. Thank you so much for sharing those. We're going to come back to those at the end of the session to see if they change or what reflections we might have on those. So the next wee jam board that we've got here, this is what do you want to get out of tonight's session. So any particular areas of neurodiversity that you might have an interest in, or just any questions, any ideas, things that come to mind, any struggles, common themes that are happening within your class or within the school. Just pop them in there so we can see what's relevant. Can you see that one?
No.
We haven't got that one. Hold the phone, people. We will. I think
I can see Mark on there. Can you see it, Mark?
Hey, just if everyone individually goes down to the bottom right-hand corner, and they should see it like a 1. If they then click on that, it'll be able to go to 2, which is the next page of the Jamboard.
Clever.
Thanks,
I thought
Mark.
it changed with my screen.
Yep.
Thank God you're here.
Come and use sometimes, eh?
Oh, hi guys. Here, I think I've fixed my technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So I should be able to hear, everything now. Yay!
Yay. Well, we're currently working on the jam board. Did you get that part? That's where we're up to. If you think it's silent, it's because you're not disconnected. It's because we're working.
Oh, that's good. No, it was more the fact that I'm here. I'm at swimming lessons, but I'm here.
Cool. It's just quiet at the moment because we're just all riding onto the jam board.
Good-o.
What do you want to get out of the session? If you can pitch in anything and we can put it in if you want.
Then I can type away. It's all good. Thank you. I'll mute myself again.
Cheers, Dawn. Cool. How are we all going with that? Thumbs up if you're feeling, head to say you've got something on there. Cool. Thanks for sharing those, team. That just makes it easy for some of the presenters just to have a wee look of what's relevant and what's the common themes throughout Southland and what's going on. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing those. Just give you a couple more seconds to wrap those up, but I think everyone's pretty good. Cool. Alrighty. So we are going to revisit these at the end of the session, so thank you again for that. I'm just going to hand over to Jodie, who is going to introduce our first speaker. We're so lucky to have Athena here, so thank you very much. And on to you, Jodie.
Oh, if you want to stop sharing that one and then we can all see. So Athena really doesn't like speaking on camera, but once you hear her tonight, you'll understand why we've invited her along. As she said, she teaches at Southland School, year 0 to 3. And I've been lucky to know her previous to my role in the teaching sense as well. And I just think she does an amazing job with her class, her group of children, tamariki, that she will talk about. She has some wonderful things happening in her classroom to support her learners. So I'm just going to hand over to you, Athena, and let you chat away, and then at the end when Athena's finished, we can have questions or anything, or if you've got something while she's talking, just pop it in the chat and we will follow up with that. Over to you, Athena.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, Jodie. I was having a wee think about what to actually say or where I actually started, and I've known that I've needed to change things in a long time, you know, having lots of students who are struggling, or, you know, you're fighting the whole time to do writing and things like that. So I think the biggest learning was with Andrea Greer. We were learning about the arousal systems, and she related that to the Winnie the Pooh characters. So your Pooh Bear is your fine kid who can learn and just get on with things. Then you've got your Piglet, who's got a little, you know, a tiny cup that can easily be overfilled by being overstimulated, or, you know, too much sensory going on, your anxious kids. And then you've got your Tiggers who have the gigantic cups. And that's been my biggest learning, is those students need to have their cups filled before they're ready to learn. So I think the biggest change I've made, like during learning time, is at writing time, or if there's something I'm doing, it feels weird because I can't hear anyone. I'm talking to myself, sorry. They can go outside. So for example, I had a huge Tigger last year and I struggled. It was a year 3. So for 2 years, I really, really struggled, you know, at writing time. And I think from Teachers College, you're taught, sit down, be quiet, do your writing, do your learning. But then after hearing about the Winnie the Pooh characters, I was like, oh my goodness, this child actually needs to go outside. So he'd go outside and play basketball for 5 minutes. And I'm quite lucky because my classroom's right beside the tennis court. I can see the sandpit from there. So he'd go out 5, maybe 10 minutes, and he'd come in, and oh my goodness, he actually started writing and doing his learning because he was ready. So that was really exciting. So the Tiggers, they go out to the sandpit, or they might need to climb. If you can see they're getting a bit fidgety, rather than growling and saying, do your work, it's, do you need to go outside for a minute? So that's quite different thinking to what I started teaching with. And then with the Piglets, they need the opposite. They need the calming. So that's where we do our breathing. And I've got a calming corner, which is by the fish tank. So it's a nice comfy chair, and there's all your fidgets and your hand moisturizer and things like that. And then beside that, I've also got little things where they can take it and do star jumps and things. But on reflection, while I was thinking about this, and there's a saying, I think Kathy Punna says it all the time, it needs to be taught, not caught. So even though I've taught all these things and I've been saying it for years, I need to constantly keep doing it, because I'll find that kids stop doing, you know, they won't go and do their star jumps, or they won't go and do their basketball, and then the learning starts. But because I need to keep coming back to it a lot, especially probably teaching the little ones. I know I was laughing before when I read that first, what do you call it, jam board? Someone wrote the go, 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 followed by the no, no, no. I was like, that's your Tiggers. You know, they're so go, 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 and you're saying, no, 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 do your learning, which used to be me. So it's just quite a big change in thinking too. They need to be doing the active before they do their learning. Yeah, that was fast. Any questions?
Just needed to unmute yourselves.
Yeah.
I have a quick comment. Athena, do you want to talk about how you start your day, or what you do to get them ready, your class ready for learning?
You telling me about something in particular? Do you mean the
anything? Yeah.
I say in the morning. Well, one thing we started is we start karakia, which is great learning because it settles everyone, and we always follow that by a song. And the ones who need it are often late because they're my piglets, and then their parents drop them off late, so they're even more anxious. But that's okay. So it's always a waiata. Depending on the day, you know, I'd make sure it's the action one. I've had a child, you know, she came in crying and very upset. And then as soon as you get your waiata out and they're doing the actions and they're singing the song, it sort of regulates them. After lunch, we do mindful moments. If you Google that, I can't remember, Kira someone, but there's lots of cool things. My children's favorite is the hot chocolate. So you sit there with your hot chocolate and she talks you through it, and it's got the nice music, and then you breathe and then you blow on it, but you don't blow too hard because, you know, the hot chocolate will splatter everywhere. So candle breath is another one. So they get really good at doing that. Ha ki roto, ha ki waho was a really good one. We had a child who got really injured, and then that was probably the only thing that really calmed her down, was just saying you know, breathe in, breathe out. So, but it's remembering you have to do it constantly, daily, and you have to practice when they're calm so that they can do it when they're not. Is that what you wanted, Jodie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a question, Athena. Like, I suppose, I don't know if you've seen it with the group you've got at the moment, but how have you seen like sort of the change or the, I guess, the developing stages of when you sort of brought this practice in? Like, how have you seen the behavior or just some wee light bulb moments that have...
Oh, lots of light bulb moments. Carla and I were just talking about a child who came and just taking it at their own pace as well. You know, there's children who, and you've got to trust the process, which is probably really tricky, whereas I'm lucky I've got them 3.5 years. We had a boy who came and he needed outside time, and I don't know what, Carla, 90% of the time, and like he had a lot of outside time, but that's actually what he needed. And if I'd made him sit in the classroom, oh my gosh, the whole class would have been dysregulated. He wasn't ready to be in there. No one would have been learning. And trusting that process is now almost ready to become a year 3. And wow, like even he can see the wonderfulness in himself and his learning. Whereas I think if I was to force him and sit and do your writing, it would have just been argument after argument. And we do a lot of, not quite this, but you know, it's all about the brain. And are you in your red brain or your green brain? Are you ready to learn? So if you're not in your green brain and you're not ready to learn, then what do you need to do? So on my wall, the piglets will put up, you know, that they need to read a book or they need to go and listen to music, whereas the tigers will say, I need to go for a run or I need to. So they are all quite aware of what they need to do if they are feeling a bit dysregulated. So I guess it's hard to say, but I think there's a lot less behaviour. Maybe if we looked at the PB4 data and things in the past, I'm sure there'd be a decrease. I don't think there's actually a lot that happens in the classroom now that I think about it. They're doing their work, yeah.
Awesome. Has anyone got any questions or any wee side notes, light bulb moments that they have or wondered for Athena?
It's very hard to like start, like to let that child go out and play basketball at writing time, you know, for the first 5 minutes. That was really difficult for me. It took a while to, you know, sort of change my thinking. But I guess once you see the positives and the impact that's having on their learning and their well-being and their engagement, like you just got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Hey, Athena. Oh, sorry, Aaron, jump in there, mate.
How do you get around like the other kids in the class being like, but I want to go outside and I want to, how do you get around that?
So no matter what I start, whether it's a moisturizer or it's music or there's a new fidget, every child has to try, and I allow that, and I will preach that no matter what I do for one, I do for all. So for example, there's a child who always got overstimulated, so I brought ear masks, but I didn't just buy one pair of ear masks, I brought 4 because it's for the whole class, not that one child. So everyone tries it. But then what really quickly happens is they don't need it, so they don't really want it, and then it goes away really quickly. So when we first introduced, you know, the basketball, you're allowed to go outside for 5 minutes. Obviously, the whole class was out and they were all dysregulated, but very quickly, it's just the ones who need it, which is quite cool. And we constantly talk about, you know, how our brains are different and we all have our own superpowers, and yours might be writing and yours might be aroha and yours might be high jump. So yeah, you definitely get that with every single little new thing, but I don't know, it sort of goes away by itself. I don't think I've really had to manage that too much.
Thank you for that, Athena. That's awesome. Mark?
Yeah, g'day. Hey, Athena. First of all, I think your kids are extremely lucky to have you. You're doing an amazing work with them. If a teacher's thinking, where do I start? What would be advice you'd give them? Where do they start?
Good question. I don't know. I'd start with your tigers, because once they're quiet, then you know you can get on with a lot of other learning. Maybe like my classroom, and man, it's changed, and it constantly does keep changing. But you know, setting up those spaces and allowing, you know, I used to have a wee thing on the wall that they used to grab to say I'm going outside for 5 minutes, but now that they just do it. Yeah. Maybe it's just choosing that one Pooby character and focusing on them and supporting them, and then that will grow into your piglets and your other things that you need. And then I guess everything's just sort of gradual. Like this has been a 3-year, 4-year journey. Like it didn't happen overnight, so you can't just, I don't know.
I really like the way you've used like the analogy with Pooh, piglet and the tigers. Like I think that's a really nice, and it's almost like it's in child speak, so they can kind of understand it as well, rather than it being a foreign, you know, thing to them.
Andrea agree, not me. She's the clever one.
Has anyone else got anything for Athena? Any questions? Oh, good. Perfect.
Thank you, Athena. You ace. Nailed it.
Thank you so much. It's just nice to hear other teachers share their experiences and the journey that they're on too, because you don't know what you don't know. So it's really awesome to hear you share that. So thank you very much. I know it's your favorite thing to be doing on here, listening to no one talk and lots of faces. So thank you again. Thank you. Cool. So we're going to move on now. We've got Chris Knight. So Chris Knight is our Disability and Inclusion Advisor here at Active Southland, and he is going to talk about so the autistic spectrum disorder. So without further ado, thank you, Chris.
Thanks very much, Billy and team. Thanks, Athena. You've done a lot of my work for me. No, I mean, neurodiversity is such a huge topic. There are so many different aspects to it. And even within each aspect of autism or ADHD, there's so many different levels in which children are affected or symptoms they exhibit. So you can't put everyone in the same box, which is really difficult if you're a teacher and you've got 4 or 5 kids in your class that have some varying degree of autism or ADHD or a mix of everything, because often one doesn't exist without the other. So it is really hard to sort of pinpoint some exact things that you can do, because what works for one child will not work for another. And when it comes to physical education, it's very much the same thing. You know, there are some general things that I think we can all do better, especially for children with autism or ADHD. So some of that sort of thing is around when we structure our physical activity. You know, if you've got a child with ADHD, they may very well benefit from having a 20-minute physical activity first thing in the morning. So starting the day off with that activity allows them to burn off some of that energy that they've got, and then the brain is ready to come back down into a learning situation. You know, and you might do 2 of those during the day, you know, 2 20-minute or 30-minute blocks. Don't expect them to be able to do 40 minutes or 50 minutes of physical activity just straight. Look at how you're presenting activity to them too, because a lot of them won't necessarily understand verbal instructions. The brains interpret verbal instructions completely differently to what a neurotypical brain will interpret instructions. So then look at other things you can do. You know, a picture storyboard, a whiteboard with stick figures on it, that sort of thing, just so that they've got a better understanding of what you're trying to achieve. Use technology. Find a video of an activity that you're going to do and let them see it in real world application, so they can actually visualize what they're going to do. If you do give instructions, give them time to absorb the instruction and figure out whether they understand it. Don't expect them to automatically understand your instruction that you've given to them. Give them time to process it, check that they've understood it, and then proceed with what you're doing. often you'll have children within your classroom that understand those children probably better than what you do as a teacher. So utilize those children to check that the child is understanding, or they have a support buddy that can be involved and help them. Routine is so important. Athena, you'll agree to that having a routine, that if you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. Don't say you're going to have physical activity first thing every morning, and then because it's raining outside, we decide we're not doing it, because that does not work for a lot of these children. They need to know that if we've said we're doing a physical activity from 9:15 to 9:30 or 9:35, that we still do it, even if it's raining outside. It may be an adaptation of a physical activity where you adapt the physical activity so they can do it within the classroom. You know, you might have an alphabet, and every letter of the alphabet is a different exercise they can do in the classroom. And you get a student to choose the word of the day, and every child has to spell it, and then they work out what exercises they need to do. You know, just simple things like that. So they're still getting that physical stimulation that helps regulate what they're doing. What else do I have here? Yeah, just making sure you do have that backup plan, that if you can't do what you were going to do outside, make sure you got a backup plan, that you can do it indoors, or just don't cancel it. Make sure they can still do some form of physical activity. Particularly with autism, they want that routine. They don't necessarily deal well with change as well. So changing an activity, while most children can adapt pretty quick, if you say you're going to go out and run around the field today, but then you decide, oh no, we're going to go and do something else. For a child with autism, that can be a huge upset, because their brain has already figured out, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that. So their whole routine gets thrown out, because all of a sudden something new has been introduced that they don't understand or they're not ready for. Good example is, we had a boy with autism that came to the IAM Games. We were doing some cycling sessions after the IAM Games, and his mum messaged me and said, can I have some more information about how it's going to work? So I explained to them where they're going to come into the event, into the velodrome, who they're going to meet there, and how it's going to work. So I was going to be there, and Mark from cycling was going to be there. You can bring your own helmet if you wish. If you don't want to bring your own helmet, then we'll sort you out with a helmet. We'll sort you out with a bike, get it set up for you, and then you'll ride around the track. And as the weeks go by, depending on your confidence in that, then things will change a little bit. It might get a bit harder, or we'll push you a bit more. But that was enough for that child to have confidence to come in and meet a whole lot of people that he didn't know and be involved in an activity. It's all about giving them time and space to explore. So much in our day is rushed, but so many kids with neurodiversity need time to explore an activity, and doesn't just work with a one-off activity. If you're going to do something, for some kids, they need repetitive goes at it. ADHD is a classic example. A session I did, we had a boy with ADHD. We're doing a game of bocce. The first week was all over the place, disrupting everyone. always being asked to sit down because it was a game that involved sitting down, which was hard for somebody with ADHD. Okay. Second week, he was sitting down 50% of the time and not being as disruptive. Third week, he was sitting there, he was listening to the instructions, he was following the rules of the game, and he was actually helping other students with the game. Okay. That is where learning came in for me. The fourth week, we played basketball. I changed the activity on him. He came in expecting to play bocce. We're doing basketball. Oh, I'm shit hot at basketball. Next minute, we're back to stage one. So I'd changed the activity without him realizing that we were doing that. So that was a learning curve for me. In 3 weeks, we'd done a certain thing. He had developed a knowledge. He had understood what we were doing. He was now being a leader in that area. But then I changed the rules on him. So keeping structure and I guess a process with kids is really key, especially in that ADHD and autism aspect, but also giving them time to explore it. Don't expect that the first time you do something, they're going to pick it up straight away or understand what they're supposed to be doing. It does take them a lot longer to get the idea. Is that?
Awesome. Yeah, Chris, I think the one, something that Chris has told me, and I'm a culprit for it when I was teaching, was don't take the physical activity away from these children. And it was the first thing I always used to do when they were playing out. Right, we're not going out for a game. And I think looking back on that now, I know that these children, they craved it, they needed it. That was, your Tiggers and your Piglets. So I think, the emphasis on that repetition, the keeping it in the structure, making sure it's purposeful and in that routine for those children is really important. So thanks, Chris. It's really nice to, hear someone else talking about the things that you might already know, but you just need, if you had to take it on board. Has anyone got any questions or anything for Chris? Light bulb moments?
And if you don't want to ask, you can just pop them in the chat and we can share on your behalf.
I think it's funny, you see, I look back on those slides and someone wrote the naughty kids. And I think that's something that Chris, we talk a lot about, is the naughty kids are the ones that really need this. And Athena, you talk to it too, that physical activity and that time and the being able to explore the different, activities and getting outside and the moisturizers and the sensory sort of things. It's really important for that. So that's awesome.
I think I didn't really understand the importance of watching a video for us before they went out. I'd use the whiteboard or stick figures and things, but that's something I might start doing if they were about.
Oh. Chris, can you give us a big overview of, well, not a big, a small overview of your massive job and how you could support teachers along their journey?
Right. So, I guess for us at Active Southland, this part, I've only been in the role since November last year. So we've been trialing stuff this year, delivering a couple of different programs. Really, in the primary school space, we've been working with fundamental movement skills. So just building up kids' confidence that they can move and keep up with their classmates, that but they're given time and space to make those improvements in their physical capability, because they're all capable. There's not one child I've come across that is not capable of being physically active. And it's all in their own way that they're physically active. For a child in a wheelchair, they're still capable of being physically active. It's just how you adapt what you're doing. giving them time and space to explore what they can and can't do. Don't just assume that they can't do something. Ask them how they may be able to do it, or if they can come up with a solution for doing something. Quite often, I hate the term able-bodied, but we make assumptions on their behalf. And it doesn't matter whether they've got a physical disability or an intellectual or neurodiverse. We often make assumptions on what they're capable of doing. So give them time and space to do and explore what they can and can't do. And you might find that they actually they develop enough confidence to give things a crack. So my role really with the primary schools that we've been working with has been about giving them a chance to explore movement through just basically Billy and I go in and we set up an obstacle course, and the kids have a blast running around different things and learning how to hop, skip, jump, all those fundamental movement skills that translate into being active. We've had some fun times doing that. And then in the secondary school space, I've been working with sports, bring sports into school and deliver a block of delivery. And that's really been about sports realising that the disability space is not a hard space to be in. It can actually be incredibly rewarding. Seeing kids achieve stuff that they never thought they were able to do. So, I don't know if I really answered your question, Mark, but it is really about building awareness around what these kids, they're quite capable, and it's how we present physical activity to them is the issue. It's making sure that they can do it and in a space that they feel confident, and they're not going to be laughed at or made to feel like they're useless. It's about building their confidence, and you find when you build their confidence, they are more inclined to give things a go and try things that they just wouldn't have normally. It's cool to see the kids develop, and just they don't seem to love what we're doing. A couple of kids came up and thanked me the other day because it was the last session I was doing with them. They're like, "Can you come back next year?" And just things like that, because they've really enjoyed the sessions. And that's where I can see potentially as coming into the school, what I'm doing, it's not rocket science. I'm using my athletics background just to present movement in a different way that works for these kids. And it's stuff that the schools, if teachers know it, it takes next to no time to set up and can be done in a 20-minute block, just like that, boom. And so.
Thanks, Chris. I think Chris wears lots of different hats and has a lot of knowledge. So it's really cool to be able to tap into that. And if you ever need to bring out, and I'm sure we'll be able to direct you to his capabilities and sort of what area of expertise he can gift.
I just put in the chat actually that you can email your school facilitator and we'll get a hold of Chris and can answer questions, or we get them in for a chat, or however that might look for what you need. I know Athena's done that too. But in reality, like Chris said, it might be daunting, but it's not rocket science, and sometimes you just need someone different to spark that idea back into your head as well. So yeah,
cool. And now we've got Kieran. So Kieran is our special projects manager here at Active Southland, and he's neurodivergent himself, so he's going to talk to that and sort of wrap it all up for us.
Thanks, Billy. I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to speak about in this session when posed with the question around neurodiversity. So I kind of wandered down a few little avenues of, should I talk about my experiences working in a school for kids with ASD in the UK, probably quite a while ago now, it's about 10 years ago, or should I, how do I add the most value? Could I talk about my time at Paralympics New Zealand, working with intellectually impaired athletes? And having heard Chris and Athena speak, I actually think the greatest value I can provide you is to talk about myself and my experiences as a child in school, and kind of what those experiences looked like at the time, what enabled me to I guess become successful in some sense, and also I guess some of the damage that was done as well in some ways, because it still lives with me now. So I've written a few notes on my phone whilst listening to you all talk today, and as I was writing notes on my phone, I was like, man, like, as a child, this wasn't an option. I had to handwrite, and I couldn't read my own handwriting. So being able to utilize technology has been such a key part of me growing and achieving things that I didn't think I'd probably ever be able to. So I grew up in the UK, as you can probably mostly all tell, although occasionally I get mistaken for Australian, which is even worse than being called a Pole. So I was probably quite lucky, actually. My mum is a teacher, and she probably very early realized that there was something that was kind of not quite right with how I was learning, and my personality wasn't coming across at school, and I was getting in trouble, and I wasn't engaged and wasn't learning as quickly as she would expect, given some of my capabilities at home. And I was probably, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and I was diagnosed as having dyslexia. I'm pretty confident now that I probably also have ADHD. My wife got diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, I see quite a lot of myself in that as well. So there's some complexities. I'm also colorblind, which, you know, was a supply teacher's nightmare. Why have you colored the sky blue? Not blue, purple. You're taking the mickey or something. So I was kind of always in trouble in some way, shape, or form in school. My behavior wasn't terrible, but I was disengaged. I was frustrated. I wasn't learning off the whiteboard. I wasn't engaging in any way. I'd sit there and fiddle with stuff, and then the girl sat next to me would complain to the teacher that I was fiddling, and then I'd get thrown out of the classroom for fiddling, and I'd sit outside and I'd be frustrated, and I'd rip something off the wall because it just didn't feel fair that I was being punished for things that were innately I couldn't change how I was behaving. I was trying to learn, but it just wasn't really seeping through. So I was tagged as one of those naughty kids. I wasn't able to take letters home to my parents. My younger siblings were given that job, and I was so ashamed of that. Like, it really, really hurt my feelings, because I'd never not given a letter to my parents, even when it was about something I was in trouble for. I remember one year specifically being told, by a head teacher, by a principal, if you carry on like this, you will end up in prison. The same year I won the school's caring cup. And it's just that for kids who are neurodivergent, there's so many layers to the behavior that presents itself. And to try and focus in on sport and recreation and physical activity, I think for me, it was sport that kept me in school. I loved sport, and I'm quite fortunate that I was relatively gifted. I don't think I was ever really going to be an international sports athlete, but it was sport that kept me in school. It was sport that got me going back to school. Occasionally I was made to sit out of PE or break time or whatever, which compounded those things even more. And I think, to Chris's point and Billy's as well, enabling those kids to be active. And I think Athena, your example of Tigger and letting those kids go and play basketball is so valuable. And I just hope that those kids in your classrooms that get those experiences of being in school don't end up with, I don't really want to call it trauma, but I definitely have some classroom trauma related to that. I was in a classroom a couple of months ago, and I was just like, I do not want to be here. I was clicking my pen, I wasn't listening, I wasn't learning, and I was like, I'm in my 30s. Why am I behaving like I'm 9 years old again? And it really lingers with you. So I think if we can encourage you in any way, shape or form to use physical activity to support those kids that it's obviously going to work for, but also just to try it with those who it may work for, who may surprise you. You're opening up those opportunities to everybody in your classroom. I can wholeheartedly advise you to do that and give it a shot, because these neurodiverse kids are incredibly capable, incredibly gifted. They're just not necessarily sliding through that educational processing factory in the way that it's designed to meet the needs of the masses. I was kind of thinking around other tips and things that I had at things in my education system that went right. So it was very bad until I was 11 years old. And it was probably so bad that I was incredibly fortunate that my parents pulled me out of mainstream school and sent me to a school that only taught dyslexic boys between the ages of 12 and 16. And there was 9 of us in a class. And I had lots of time, and we repeated stuff. We weren't expected to read, and even at NCAA level, we weren't expected to read To Killing Mockingbird. Our teacher read it to us, and we had audio books, and we learned that way rather than leaning into the challenges. It was leaning into what are these kids good at. And I was thinking about when Chris was talking about time in a day, I was like, man, we did a lot of sport at school. You know, our day was 8:45 till 6 p.m. So a long day. And it was 5.5 days a week. So we did school on Saturday morning as well, and then sport Saturday afternoon. But we had physical education every day at different points in the day, but your timetable was set for the year from day one. It didn't change. And we had physical education every day. At 4 o'clock every day, there was sport or other activities. So not everyone with dyslexia is a great athlete. We had quite a few very good athletes at my school, but you know, there was car mechanic opportunities and all sorts of other stuff for those kids to go and do. And then after that, we did our homework at school in a kind of semi-supervised environment, but we'd all just done something that we were interested in, something that got our mind moving and fluid and transitioning from classroom-based learning into something that, you know, made us tick, that we were good at or we were learning or developing. And then we went into doing our homework. And I feel like I've never done homework in my entire life, because in secondary school, that was my experience. And then at university, my discipline was incredible, apparently, because I'd get home, I'd go to sport, come home, and I'd just start doing stuff, because it was like that was what I was used to doing. And it was that repetition and repetition and repetition and routine that enabled me to overcome so many classroom-based challenges. And I'm incredibly grateful for, I guess, for sport and recreation to be able to do that. I was thinking that, you know, would have been some hilarious moments. I can't imagine trying to coach 35 to 40 dyslexic kids rugby and they don't know their left or right. There's probably 2 or 3 of us that knew which was left, which was right. And like, there would have been some incredible moments, and there's some incredible teachers that were patient and tolerant and enabled us to learn and do things in completely different ways that I think have probably become more mainstream now, like having conversations with everybody at Active Southland who's been teachers and listening to Athena speak earlier. I think some of that stuff has seeped into mainstream education, which is fantastic. But it is about understanding the individual, being patient, finding those little things that work. And I think physical activity, not only for boys, but particularly for boys, is a great way of being able to center them in the classroom. Celebrate their success is probably one of the things that I would really encourage all teachers to do. Like, I remember at 9 years, maybe 11 years old, the reason I was the fastest at school was because I was the tallest, apparently, according to the teacher, not because I was the most motivated or the one that wanted to win the best competitor or just the best athlete. Like, it was because I was taller, because I couldn't do anything right. So being able to build self-esteem and self-pride, I think then gives you as teachers a better platform to do your magic with your wider learning. But if that can come through sport and rec and physical activity, let that happen, support those kids to do that, and don't make them miss out on sport. The same way that I would be gobsmacked if any of you ever turned around to your I don't know, 8-9-year-old girl who's fantastic at maths and English, but didn't really want to do PE and was messing around. I can't imagine a teacher's ever turned around to her and being like, do you know what, you're misbehaving so badly in PE today, you're not going to get to do English later. It doesn't happen. So let's not treat those neurodiverse kids, in those Tiggers especially, in that way. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to talk too much more about myself. It feels a bit vulnerable, and also I've used a lot of words now. So I'm going to wrap that up there. Yeah, that's me, I think.
Has anyone got any questions for Kieran? Anything that kind of stands out, or even something in your class that you're like, oh, right, that makes sense?
Lily, there's a question in the chat.
Regarding the high intensity.
Yes.
No one's asked, is the higher level, I can't even get my words out, is the higher level intensity better?
In regard to physical activity, guys will be the ones to answer.
Yeah, for me, definitely that would have been the case. But I think it's probably a case by case basis. I'll let Chris answer.
So the kids that we're working with the primary schools, a lot of them are, we do 20 to 30 minutes, but they do not stop during that time. They're constantly moving. You know, whether it be running, jumping, or throwing, they do not get a chance to stop and let some of those triggers happen that cause them to lash out or anything like that. I just keep them moving. So they don't have time to push and shove each other or anything like that. So yeah, and that's part of the key, is having that activity that you can just keep them moving. Don't let them stand around where they can then get distracted and lash out.
I think that's a really good point from Chris there. It's something that most good coaches anyway will be like, have as many balls out as possible, have as much equipment out as possible. Don't have kids waiting in line to pass a football, to throw a tennis ball, because that's when your Tiggers are going to cause problems, because they're in line and they're bored and they're fidgeting, and then there's something on someone's t-shirt and it gets pulled, or they get pushed over, or that's when it falls apart for those kids. So keeping people busy, keeping them engaged. It doesn't matter if they're bouncing a ball when they shouldn't be bouncing a ball. They're probably listening. I listen better if I'm doing something. And I think it's just that flexibility that Chris and Athena have definitely spoken about, and having as much stuff going on as possible for those kids. Obviously, that will be overstimulating for others, but if you can find a way that you can merge both, and it is tricky. I think often inclusive sport, we get told it's really easy, and it's not. It is hard when you've got a lot of kids with diverse needs, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask questions of Chris or your coordinators, or whilst I mean, I'm happy to be of assistance if I ever can be as well, but there are people with knowledge that can help you, and it's not assume that it's supposed to be easy and I'm failing because I can't do it. It's far better to ask for help, because it is tricky at times. It's tricky a lot of the time, to be honest, and you've got so many needs in that space. So I really think that keeping these kids busy, asking for help, continuously learning, and really understanding your kids. It was something I spoke to Billy and Mark about the other day. As teachers, you know, you've got so much going on, but knowing what's really understanding these kids. I think Athena, you said you got 3 years with them, which is amazing, because it's going to build so much in-depth knowledge and trust that you understand what makes them work and what makes them tick. Those teachers that only have a year, that's harder, because you've got to build trust at the start, and trust is your real currency with neurodiverse kids and their parents. So it takes time to develop, it takes time to build, but understanding their individual needs and their individual circumstances will really, really help, I think.
Athena, I'm going to get you to do a wee plug, but do you want to talk about how I'm guessing, like, how your confidence changed from going out and teaching PE with your class?
Like how terrible I was?
No, you were awesome, but how your thinking changed, or your confidence grew even more with what you...
From That's probably through Move Well. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Wow. Because I was block your ears, some of you, but I used to like not do PE because it was too hard. Because I didn't, you know, there were so many needs and we didn't have all the equipment and it was really a struggle and it was always done at the end of the day. And so it was the first thing kicked off the timetable. And then, I don't know, was it a couple of years ago, Jodie? You did a Move Well course for our kahui ako. I went along, I was like, this is really simple. And so, you know, I think one of the biggest changes was, you know, we need teamwork. So you'd go through Move Well and you pull out a teamwork and then you have your step one. And that's what I show my kids, which is where I got my stick figures and things from. You know, this is what we're going to do first. And then it has all the discussions, it has all your questions, it has the next step and how to make it harder. And so, yeah, Move Well kind of saved my life. Helped me PE. So, yeah, if you don't use Move Well, you should start. Jodie will teach you. It was really great.
I think it's a nice segue into like physical, by doing physical activity for these neurodiverse kids, it's not just going to benefit them. Like you've got the whole other class, you know, everyone that isn't neurodiverse, or they might be, you know, the kids that don't need it, they're still going to benefit from it. Just go out, have a game, get them active, get their heart rate up, get them going. Because if you wear them out or you get them excited about something, give them that time to transition back into the class and, you know, take their time to get into the learning, but it's going to pay off and you will see the benefits of it, as you've heard from our three gurus in the room.
And PE doesn't need to be taught in the afternoon.
No, anytime. Put it in 3 times a day, 20-minute chunks. Yeah. Get it going. Do what works because the kids will thank you for it. Has anyone else got any questions? I've just got one last wee thing for us to do. And then any questions? No? I just got one wee thing here. It's just to share another whiteboard. And this is just for us moving further on. If you just go down to the bottom right corner again and go to page 3. It's just, what would you like to know more about if we were to run another PLD around neurodiversity or physical disability, intellectual disability, just to give us a bit of a taste into some further questions or information that would be beneficial for you, so we can sort of tailor it to your needs. That'd be great if you just jump in there and pop some things in.
Billy, I can't find the little thing to change to the page. Like it was there last time, but it's not there this time. Like, where did it go? Is anyone else having that problem? Was it just me? Special.
It should just be down there. It's got like a little.
Should be down the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, mine is not there.
You haven't got a wee.
I'll just text you guys. Like, you know, I feel like I'm in the crowd there that just doesn't want to pop up for me.
Put it in the chat.
I'll put it in the chat. I can't remember the question. Okay, I'm going to stop now.
What would you like to know more about?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I had a timer set and it just went off, and that's why I jumped. Everyone saw that. A quick question, Athena, for you, or I guess this is something we can pose. Would you, well, actually, I probably know the answer, but would you be happy for others to come and see your wonderful classroom? Those schools that are on healthy active learning, it'd be a great way to use their release day, if they could, to come and just be eyes in your classroom.
Anyone is welcome to be eyes in my classroom. No, I'm more than happy to have anyone in. That's lovely.
There's no better way to sort of see how something works than to be immersed in it yourself. So I think if you are a lot of the healthy active learning schools, a really great way to use your release days. Go on a teacher roadie, get in touch with your school facilitator if you'd love to see Athena's, even just like sitting eyes on the classroom walls, what's going on, and some practices that she used. That would be a really great way to nibble those up. And regarding the resources and maybe having a wee bank of things to take away from this, we've recorded this. We do have all the ideas that have gone on, but also we are going to put together some resources, some websites, helpful places to direct you to, some readings, and just some things that the presenters have talked about tonight, so that we can put that all together in an email and flick it through to you. Because Athena did mention some really cool video clips and helpful resources there as well. And it's just a really helpful way for us to sort of navigate into our next PLD as to what's relevant and what you want, what you want more of, and things that we can go and find for you, and help you out as much as we possibly can.
And the big thing is we've barely touched the surface of this tonight. You know, we've had a very limited time, and there's experts around the world that are still struggling with this. So, you know, be aware that, you know, we're all learning as well. And as I said earlier, you know, what works for one child will not work for the next one, even though they might have the same condition and the same symptoms. You know, just how their brain works is completely different. So, you know, getting to know them and knowing how their brain, or learning how their brain works, is key to probably having the most success with them.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's just taking that first step into having a go, trying something, being that 1% that takes something out of the session and implement it, and just have a go, not being afraid to fail, and knowing that you can only try and see what happens. It'd be great to hear how you go, and if you take anything away from this, or have a few light bulb moments when you go back into class and think, oh, you know, that's my tip, I'm going to go outside, or it'd be really cool to see how you go with that. Any other things?
And most definitely, don't be scared to reach out. You know, either directly with myself or Kieran or any of the HEL team. You know, we're there to try and support you guys with this.
Yeah. Well, thank you all again for joining us. It's been great to have you online and just to hear some common themes and to listen to our speakers talk to neurodiversity and physical activity and how important it is for all children. It's been really great to hear everyone's sort of perspective and where everyone is on that journey, which has been great. So our closing karakia tonight is me mahi tahi tātou, mō te oranga o te katoa, which means we should work together for the well-being of everyone, which is quite fitting for the end of this PLD. So yeah, thank you all again for joining us. It's been great to have you. We appreciate giving up your time, and thank you to Kieran, Chris and Athena for sharing their expertise. It's been great to have you all on, and we look forward to the next PLD, which won't be far away.
Oh, it's the next one.
Cool. Thanks, Sam. Good luck for
Thanks,
the
guys. Billy.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Billy, you can start recording now.
Top job, Billy.